be locked and loaded. Nobody safe around me. I'm about to spread around.
Hey there, everybody. Hope you're doing great. Did the podcast this morning. Focused on social media. Was doing some practice. Talked about getting ready for the Gulf Coast Symposium here for the Houston HR Society of Human Resource Managers, abbreviation SHRM. It's not a play on my own vanity here. So then came here to the Houston West Chamber of Commerce. Got coffee talk going on this morning. Had to work around where to park. The map was a little bit misleading, but nonetheless got here. Took about 10 minutes to kind of just slip around. Went through a couple employee parking spots that the guards had to send me around. Phillips 66 is over here, so they take security pretty seriously here. So I'm gonna put on the vest. It's a nice brisk day, probably in the 50s or so. Still raining, so didn't go out and work out this morning, but we'll definitely hit the gym later on today. It's taking me a little bit longer than I thought. So, all right. So the podcast this morning was focused on, if you're not controlling your narrative, who is? And for a lot of people, no one is, and that's the problem. So we live in a show me world. You can share your own personal brand, which is based on your reputation. If you're a business, you can share who you are. The question is, who's controlling yours? Hey everybody, hope you're doing good. I'll run off to a meeting here. There's definitely one of those, keep your friends close, your enemies closer. So meeting with the competition, be able to figure out, hey, what are they doing? What are they doing differently? What's going well? A lot of times in a professional setting, you can just share ideas and just see what's going on, what's going well with them, and also you can share with them what you're doing, what's really working well. Talk to you. All right, everybody. End of the day here. Productive day. Just looking at these last set. So we'll do 6 sets in, 7. So let's see. So great meeting this morning, talking about hiring and interviewing and thinking outside of that proverbial box. When it comes to interviewing, one of the biggest struggles is that we're in a low interest rate, a low unemployment environment. And so with the way that we've been interviewing in the past and hiring, we need to do something differently about it. And so that's becoming extremely powerful for those that are able to adjust to more behavioral style of interviewing. The problem with resumes is that they're reading more like a job description than anything else. And then when it comes to, all right, everybody, here we are, heading out here. Hope you're doing well. Let's get that focused in. Let's turn that light off. So today we went to a event where we were talking about interviewing, hiring, where we're in a low unemployment rate. One of the stats that they brought forward was those that have college degrees, it's a 2% unemployment. And so literally from a recruiting and hiring and interview process, we're all chasing, in a sense, the same person to be able to come in and hopefully have a role with us. And so we need to start doing things a little bit differently in how we're running that interview process, just because more likely than not, those individuals are interviewing with multiple companies at one time. So it becomes extremely important for us to have a look at how we're doing that whole interviewing and hiring process. So for some of the suggestions that was brought forward was to be able to share why you love where you're working and why you love what you're doing. at your organization. It's amazingly abysmal how many people don't actually enjoy what they do. I'm going to mic up so that way we get a little bit better volume here. And whoop, there we go. The other thing that was really eye-opening from a conversation perspective is that resumes are reading more like a job description and less like what's been accomplished, because that's what's most important is what have you done, what have you completed, what are your results when it comes to your ability to get the job done. We don't need a job description of what you've done. We know that you can probably interview, but how many of those people did you interview? If you're a trainer, how many of those did you actually train and develop to be successful and that are still with the organization? And don't think that just because they went with the organization that that's a positive either. There's more value in being able to see where those people are and what you've been able to do to help them get to where they need to go. So as I was thinking about my interview process, number one, it is a process, so that's probably the first step. Number two is I think about the questions that I'm asking. Can I be asking more behavioral questions? Can I role play a little bit? Try to get more to the heart of the person, allow them to speak more? I think I can. I think there can be more powerful ways to run that interview. Probably have the recruiter director come sit in on a couple of interviews just so I make sure that I'm putting forth our best foot in this very competitive market space of fighting for talent. The other one is ultimately know exactly what you want to be hiring. I think a lot of people, they don't know. They're just going after something. They kind of, in a sense, have this process, but yet then they'll almost hire anybody, which isn't doing anybody really the good that they wanted to. And then after that meeting, came into the office, shot out some emails, phone calls, returning messages, and then went to meet with the competition. And so that was good to be able to know what they're doing, what they're going through, what's their strategy, how are they finding success. And it's nothing that, the beauty about our industry that I'm in is that there's nothing that takes away. Like, their ability to be successful doesn't mean that I'm not going to be successful. There's more than enough business to be had out there in the world, and so it can be extremely powerful as we just share different ideas of what's working well. And ultimately, who wins is the consumer, the client. They get a better value, they get a better experience by us sharing what's working well in our industry. Came back here to the office, stopped by, grabbed some Filipino food, and then now heading home. Have a 7 o'clock meeting. I was hoping to get in a run today. I was hoping to do it before my 7 o'clock, but it's about 5 o'clock now. Hour ride home. It'll be 6. It's about a 20-minute drive to that meeting from my house, so I might not be able to get in the exercise that I want to and still get changed for the meeting. So we'll just see what we can do. Sherman's out. In a world of such low unemployment, are you changing the way that you're interviewing and hiring people? For those of you that are in the recruiting space, are you looking more behaviorally at your questions? Are you diving in deeper in what you're asking them to show you their failures, their setbacks, how they handle change? Allow them the opportunity to speak and share with you what's beyond the resume. You got to get beyond that piece of paper and really dive in deep to the soul of the human being. The other one is that if you are a person that's looking to get hired, are you showcasing, are you sharing with the world who you are, what you stand for? Leverage LinkedIn, Facebook, leverage for your advantage to be able to show who you are. We live in a show me world, and we have the opportunity to share our story. The question we have to ask ourselves is, who's in control of that narrative? Sherm's out. Hey there, everybody. I had to come here to Walmart to get a little dessert for my wife. First off, I misread the text when I came home. I just got the Hawaiian bread, didn't see that she wanted a little something sweet. So came back out, no big deal. She's putting down the youngest, getting a little cupcake. But I wanted to quickly do this video is because kind of two things. Number one is last night was talking with someone that I had met in Wisconsin. We weren't super buddies, we were acquaintances, knew of each other, and he reached out to me Facebook Messenger and wanted some advice, some thoughts on kind of his spiritual development, spiritual growth. And I just said, hey, why don't you just Facebook message me? We had a conversation on the phone, and we were able to have a conversation for about a half hour. And that, to me, is the impact of social media. Remember, these are communication tools, and it's about the impact for me of the one-to-one experience. The next one was tonight. Someone that follows me on Instagram but knows my LinkedIn profile, knows what I do professionally, and then had applied to a competitor of mine, got a response, and so wanted some insight on what that meant, and felt a little bit discouraged from the email. And I said, no, don't let that discourage you. It just means that the way that they do things, it's just them. Look at some other companies; they'd be more than happy to have you in. Plus, it gave me insight into what the other company is doing. Remember that old adage, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And for me, it's a team mentality in my industry, and for a lot of industries going forward. If you look at the educational systems right now, they're focused on teams and not individuals. And so those organizations that can collaborate and create teams and have synergy are going to be much more successful, not only now, 2019, but in 10 years, 2029, and even further, 2039, because even more so, my sons are in it from middle school and elementary school. They're already in these team learning structures, and so their tables are mobile. They're interacting all over the place, and so you want to be able to make sure that you're focusing your organization on creating teams to help them be successful and ultimately pull out their greatest talents to your organization. Drums out.